Hey guys, Joel's coming at you with another reasoning sesh where I challenge the status quo of the wisdom of the world and the church by diving deep into the ancient scriptures and applying them practically to situations in our present day. And today I'm doing a part 2 on what I started last episode on the origin of Lucifer, his fall, and his final judgment.
Come now and let us reason together. Come now, we can talk it over.
But before I get into that, I just gotta say that, hey, if you like these videos, give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe if you haven't already, because there's no better time to profit from these messages than right now, because we're fast accelerating to reach a tipping point when we're gonna literally enter Earth 2.0, when the old systems of corruption and manipulation can't stand in the light of truth. And that truth has already dawned. And as people start to wake up, we can't continue living on in that same old era of darkness. But I'm just going to jump right into it, because last episode I covered a bit from the 14th chapter of the Oracles of Isha. And it says, "How are you fallen from heaven, O Lucifer?" The Hebrew word there literally means the shining one. In Latin, Lucifer means the light bearer. "Son of the morning, how are you cut down to the ground which did weaken the nations?" And on the last episode, I covered on what he was trying to do. He was literally trying to usurp the office of man, because he was jealous when he found out that man was created in the image and likeness of Elohim. Angels don't have free will, but man has free will and the ability to exercise the spoken word to actually manifest and create and manipulate reality. This is what he was so jealous of. And his whole campaign was to be like the Most High. But despite all of this, he was brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. And those of us that are able to see through the illusion because of the light of Christ in us, we look narrowly upon him and consider him, saying, "Is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms?" It goes on to say about him that you are cast out of your grave like an abominable branch, and as the raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with a sword that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden under feet. You shall not be joined with them in burial, because you have destroyed your land and slain your people. The seed of evildoers shall never be renowned. And that's just the thing. People spend their whole lives fighting for the kingdom of darkness, trying to climb that ladder of control over the physical dimension and her fellow man. But guess what? At the end of the day, Satan always betrays his people, and they get nothing for their work. And actually, he just laughs as he torments them. And they all turn against each other. But this very event was alluded to when Jesus told his disciples after they came back, casting out demons in his name and all excited about the authority that they realized they had. He said, "I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven." Now, he's not talking about himself as the physical man there. He's talking about himself as the pre-incarnate word that existed since the beginning of time in God and as God, portion of God that actually impregnates the spirit and manifests what we perceive of as creation. And he elaborates this point of authority by saying, "Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you." And I did another video talking about this power of the enemy and how serpents and scorpions are symbols talking about perception. But an interesting point when he says, "I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven," in the Aramaic, which was the original language which Jesus would have spoken, the phrase lightning from heaven literally is Barack Obama. I'm not making this up. And it's quite ironic that he's still running things from behind the scenes. And we even had that admission from drunken Pelosi.
Keep government open. We have to do those imminently. More imminently even, to address the full Obama agenda of building back better.
But another interesting point is that his middle name is Hussein, and Hussein actually means like beautiful or handsome. And like I mentioned in the last episode from the Oracle of Yechezkel, it actually talks about how beautiful he was in his original form in the Garden of Eden, actually walking among the stones of fire. You know, it says, "You were perfect in your ways from the day that you were created." And then it goes on to say, "Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty. You have corrupted your wisdom by reason of your brightness." There's a reference to Isha when he calls him Hillel ben Shechar, or Shining One, Son of the Morning. That word Shining One comes to us as Lucifer through the Latin translation. But he says, I will cast you to the ground. I will lay you before kings that they may behold you. And again, in Hebrew, there's no difference between future and present tense. This is a statement where Yahweh is literally saying, I cast you to the ground. I lay you before kings that they may behold you. And of course, that's talking about the original fall of Satan when he fell from his office as the covering cherub that stood as guardian over the actual presence of Yahweh Elohim. And that was, of course, enforced through the death and resurrection of Christ when he ascended into heavenly places and seated us in that same kind of authority. But in the meantime, while we're stuck in this transition, in this time warp of progression from one place to another in this physical dimension playing out itself, we have to literally assume that kind of authority before we can see the final judgment on the kingdom of darkness. And that is seen in the Apokalupsis, in the 20th chapter, where it says, And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil, and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. So we do have this 1,000-year victory ahead of us. But guess what? It's not over just because the 1,000 years are up and Satan's let back out. Because guess what? It continues to say that when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, which is also mentioned in the oracles of Yechezkel, talking about the final battle of Armageddon. But he's doing this all to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. And they went up on the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about and the beloved city. And fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. So this is a brief description of the final battle. Of course, the oracles of Yechezkel and even Zechariah also go into detail about this, and I'll most likely do a future episode covering this very topic. But let's see what happens to this great deceiver. It says, And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. And then it concludes by saying, And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death, meaning that once that happens, man, we as beings live forever in eternity. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. And you know what? That's not even the very end of the book, because the last two chapters of the book are talking about the new life in the new heaven and the new earth, with the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down from heaven. A time when God shall wipe away all tears from our eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. Then it goes on to describe the new Jerusalem with the building of the wall like jasper, and the city of pure gold like unto clear glass, the 12 foundations of precious stones, and the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Every gate was of one pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold, as it were transparent glass, without the need of sun or moon, because the glory of God lights it. And the pure river of the water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb in the midst of it. And on either side of the river is the tree of life with 12 fruits, yielding fruit every month, with the leaves of the tree for the healing of nations. A land with no more curse and no night. Man, this is what the end of the book is talking about. This is what we have to look forward to. And this is our inheritance as children of light, as sons of the living God. So even though the kingdom of darkness is kind of set up shop in the world for now, don't be dismayed, because honestly, we win, and our victory is grander than anything the kingdom of darkness can even fathom for itself in the meantime. So tap in, get on the right side of history, and be the beings that you were created to be, because nothing else is going to matter when we shed this flesh. So I love you guys. I'll check you in the next reasoning sesh. Stay optimistic, because good things are coming. Good things.
Good things are coming. Good things.
Agape, Salaam, Namaste, Shalom.